See if that works better. It's funny, because it's worked so well before. So September 1st, 2017, and it's not quite noon, not quite lunchtime. It's supposed to get 80 degrees or so today, and it's supposed to be 93 on Monday. So this will be our hottest streak of the year, and we've had a really long summer. It's pretty funny, actually, considering the record-setting winter and spring we had, with more rain and more snow than we've ever had before, and colder than it's ever been before. And now we follow it up with a summer that's breaking all kinds of records. Also, we've set the record for days without rainfall. We've set the record for days above 70 degrees. I hope that my grandson Owen and his son or daughter are watching this video in 30 years, so they can see what it used to be like here. The reason I'm taking this journey is because when we were out here in 1968, we went to Canada, and there was no I-5 in 1968 out this far. They had it down in Seattle, but it hadn't made it out here yet. And so we had to have driven on Highway 99 all the way to Canada. There's no doubt about that. So a couple of weeks ago, I came out this way and trying to find Highway 99, and I finally did, but it just was too late. My camera was dying, its batteries all died, so I couldn't finish the journey. But now I know that if I go out here near Stanwood, that I can catch Highway 99 there. I saw old 99, and I drove a little bit on it. And it was really interesting because, you know, it's kind of familiar in a weird way. And so I'm thinking that I can take this video now and in 30 years, if you take a drive out this way, it'll feel vaguely familiar for you, I imagine. That looks kind of like the real picture of the car in front of me. It looks about that size. It was a different world 28 years ago when I moved here. You would never see this kind of traffic in Marysville no matter what. There was not a stoplight here, there's no doubt about that. There was one back there, but it was nothing like it is now. When I first moved out here, first moved over on Grand, 2131 Grand is where I lived for 24 years, 25 years, 24 years, something like that, 23 years. And I lived in apartment number 2, I guess. I don't remember now. It was the back apartment on the bottom floor, and we used the garage as our recording studio and practice rehearsal studio for our bands. And when we lived there, the front apartment was taken by 2 gentlemen named Tom and Eric, and they became fast friends, and then they had friends that we were introduced to. Tom's brother Jerry, and they had a friend named Rusty, and Dave, amongst others. There's Jeff and a whole bunch of others. But they were from out in Marysville. They were from here in Marysville, and they were always talking about this place that they like to go drinking called Fine Glens. And it sounded like some place that you go out into the woods and, you know. But instead it happened to be this little bar right on the right hand side here called Vi and Glens. But when they'd say it, it was Fine Glens. Vi and Glens. So we always thought it was this really cool, mysterious place. And I remember we were driving by here one time and somebody pointed it out. It was fairly comical. But this seemed like out in the country back then, because there definitely was not a shoulder here. This was ditches on both sides. I think it's like 7 miles here to Winco, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. So I just checked my odometer and zeroed it out. None of this stuff on the right, none of these businesses on the right-hand side were here. There was a gas station, perhaps, but there was no shopping center, there was no Dairy Queen here. And who knows? In 30 years, they might not be here either. Might be a completely different lay of the land. They might have earthquakes and huge eruptions and stuff that totally ruin this land and make it a totally different thing in the next 30 years. We had a fellow named Richard Grant that I worked with at Precision Airmotive that one Christmas he was telling me he got this new video camera and he was looking for things to videotape. And so I said, well, come over and videotape the band. Videotape our rehearsal. We'll put on a performance for you. And you can find that performance now on YouTube. In the Front Room, I think it's called. Anderson Council in the Front Room, I believe. And that was in 1991. He came over in January, early January 1991. And we were preparing to do our first stage performance down in Seattle at Pier 70, which happened later on in January of 1991. We had had our debut, quote-unquote, performance over on Whidbey Island the Halloween before that, where we played for some friends, and they had a garage that we set up in, and they had a big Halloween party with several hundred people wandering in and out. And it was a blast. It was over on Whidbey Island. And that was quite an experience, and led to even crazier experiences, actually. That Navy support complex that shows there on the right-hand side was not around. There was no Navy in Everett when I moved in there. They were just starting to put in the pier to put it in. For the first year, maybe 2 years, 24 hours a day, you would hear them pounding out in the water. You could hear them pounding, clang, clang. Every few seconds, clang. It was crazy, but that's how they had to do it. That's how they had to do it to build the Navy base out there. I'm almost thinking it is crazy enough. I'm going to turn on the air conditioner. Can you imagine that? But that way I don't have to roll down the windows and I can still tell stories. Of places we go by, maybe. Strawberry Fields Athletic Field. If you make a right here. Of course, it's not the Strawberry Fields. But it's our strawberry fields, I suppose. Umbrella Corporation. What the hell? Shouldn't you be down at Seattle for Bumbershoot? Not too bad they're turning. I remember when we moved out here and it says speed limit is 40 miles an hour. There wasn't anybody doing that slow back then, and now you have to go slower. Ah, here we go. We're going to get a break. Woo! Getting into the Smoky Point area. This was out in the boondocks. There was nothing here in Smoky Point back then. I think there was a gas station and maybe a restaurant. It definitely wasn't McDonald's or anything like that. But there was nothing else out here. There was no stoplight here. In fact, I remember used to come to this Safeway that's on the right-hand side. There was no bank here in the parking lot back then. Well, that's where Northwest Plus is. That's funny. But I'd come out here and I'd meet my marijuana dealer out here at Safeway. And he always had the best there was. And it was funny because one time in particular, I came out here and scored. And Rob the drummer was with me, and we came back out and got into the car, got ready to take off, and I was going to fill a bowl for the drive back. I reached into my pocket, and the weed wasn't there. I thought, okay, well, did I put it in my sock? It wasn't in my sock, and I'm looking everywhere. Where's my fucking weed? God damn. And I was frantic. And I'm thinking, oh no, it didn't fall out in the store, did it? So we walked in as casually looking as we could, wandering around the store looking everywhere. Because we'd walk through the store waiting for our buddy to show up in the first place. And it wasn't there, it wasn't there. And resigned with defeat, we decided to give up and go back out to the car. Maybe it left it in the car, maybe it fell out in the car. And as we're walking across, it was raining, by the way, I should point that out. As we're walking across the parking lot, I just happened to spy it right there. There it was in the middle of the parking lot, the bag of weed, and it had been run over several times. It was flat as a pancake. But the funny thing was that it wasn't wet. It didn't get wet. It was wrapped up in a good plastic bag and it didn't get wet at all. But it was smashed. It was pretty funny. Dennis, you know who you are. In fact, I think he lived like right down this street to the right, I believe, is where he used to live. I think he still does live down there, I'm not sure. Maybe down that one? Yeah, it might be down that street right there. Gosh, I don't know if the speed limit's 35 or 40 here. Probably 40 though. Marysville, one of those communities that decided it doesn't want illegal marijuana sold in their downtown, or in their city, I guess. So instead it's out here, and it's a convoluted way of having to have to come clear out here. When it first became legal, we came out here, Chris and I came out here trying to find this place. There it is to the right here. And it seemed like it took forever to get out here. We got out here and the place was out of stock. It was so comical because we knew 10 people back in Everett that we could go and score from right then. You know, and they had massive quantities. But that's because when it first became legal, they had to grow quickly, and they couldn't buy stuff that it had to be grown legally. So, you know, it had to be a couple months afterwards before you could get anything at all. And usually it wasn't that great until several months after that to get the first couple of crops in. So you get some full-grown, mature plants. I'm thinking it must be faster than 40 because I'm doing 50 and I feel like I'm going slow compared to these people that are passing me up here or coming towards me. Dwayne Lane used to have their main store was on the corner of Rucker and when did they do this? On Rucker and Hewitt. What the heck? Can't make a left here? That kind of ruins everything, doesn't it? Go to Arlington, damn it. So I'm going to have to turn around here and go back the other way again. Gotta go back there again. Could have done a turnaround right there, so I'll do it here instead, by gosh, that's what I'll do. Plants and produce. I wonder if they got catnip. I wonder if they got weed. Well, they should have. Plants and produce. Once again, we're out here in the middle of nowhere. What used to be the middle of nowhere, and the traffic is crazy. And I realize it's the first of the month, first of all. So I know that has something to do with it being busy. And I also know that being Labor Day, everybody's trying to pay their bills so they can have a good Labor Day. Well, speed limit is 35 and all these people are going a lot faster than 35. Ossifer. It's right, Ossifer, I can drive. what happens here? Do I go over I-5 and maybe there's 99 on the other side? That'd be lucky, wouldn't it? You're not supposed to make a left there, you fucker. It didn't matter to you at all. What's on the other side? Is 99 on the other side with some kind of luck? Of course. Let's stop for this. There is a sign up here. Now that means that's what this highway is. Part 2 coming up.